right, so for number 33, it's a multi-step problem, which means there's probably a little bit more to do. It says H is in the interior of angle JAK. And it says the measure of angle JAH is equal to 3x minus 8 degrees, and the measure of angle KAH is equal to x plus 2 degrees. Draw a picture of each relationship and find the measure of each angle. For part A, well, basically what's going on here is, if I draw just a simple one, JAK, like that, H is somewhere in the middle. Now, for part A, it says that angle JAH and angle KAH are complementary. Now, what does it mean to be complementary? What do you mean 90 degrees? What do you mean by they make up 90 degrees? When you add them together, they are 90 degrees. So the measure of angle JAH plus the measure of angle KAH is equal to 90 degrees. And I only say that when you're saying that because I kind of know you know in your head when you're saying 90 degrees and then they make up 90 degrees. I want us to get more formal. Because if you say, if I add them up, they are 90 degrees, then all of a sudden, bam, this makes sense. Now I could just plug in the stuff. 3x minus 8 plus x plus 2 is equal to 90 degrees. Now we need to find the measure of each angle. So for this first angle, I need to add up these two. Now you can add them in a row if you want to, or you can kind of work on the side and say 3x minus 8, and then I got an x plus 2, and I got to add them together. What's negative 8 plus 2? Negative 6. What's 3x plus x? 4x. Nope, just 3x. Thank goodness they didn't put a square in there. We'd have to do factoring and all that kind of fun stuff. We don't want to do that yet. If you did this the other way, sometimes if it's easier, underline the common terms. 3x and an x, that gets you to a 4x. Negative 8 plus 2 is a negative 6. So I got 4x minus 6 is equal to 90 degrees. Now what do I do? Add 6 to both sides. Because I have a negative 6, or minus 6. To get rid of that, I have to add 6. So I'll say plus 6 is equal to plus 6. Add the two equations together, which is the property of algebra. This is what you do when you're subtracting from both sides or adding to both sides. Basically, you're coming up with this. A is equal to B, and C is equal to C, and then you add them up. A plus C is equal to B plus C. That's the property of algebra you're using. So if we stay in the rules and do the property of algebra, this becomes easier, especially when the problems become more complex. So you get 4x, and then negative 6 plus 6 is what? Nothing. It's a 0. 90 plus 6 is 96. Divide that by 4. X is 4 goes in there twice, so 2, 1. So that's 24 degrees. Now, am I done? No, I got to say the measure of angle JAH is equal to 3x plus 8 degrees. So it's going to be 3 times 24 plus 8. That's 72 plus 8. So how much is this angle? 80 degrees. So the measure of angle JAH is equal to 80 degrees. Now, what do I know about the two angles in part A? They are complementary, so they should equal 90 degrees. So I can say that the measure of angle KAH is equal to 90 minus 80 degrees, because they both have to be 90 total, so 90 is my key number, so I just need to subtract that 80, that's 10 degrees. So I got my two angles for part A. Yes, sir? No, we'll check in a second. Where? Oh, it is a minus sign. That would have worked. It worked out so much nicer that way. So that's a 64. That's a 64. So that's 26 degrees. So you get 64 degrees for the first one and 26 degrees. See how the problem changes if you just lose a plus sign or a minus sign? It changes a whole lot. So your job is to make sure that you don't do what I do, which is miss plus and minus signs all the time. Be very, very careful with those. Any other questions on this one? Any other places I screwed up? Nope? Okay. Swim times. Let's go to part B. There's 3 parts to it. It says angle JAH and angle KAH they form a linear pair. So if they form a linear pair, there's J, there's A, there's H, and there's K. If I add them together, what's great about a linear pair if you add them together? What do you get? 180 degrees. So I can just say that the measure of angle JAH plus the measure of angle KAH is equal to 180 degrees, which is kind of the same thing as saying that they're supplementary. Because if angles are supplementary, linear pairs are supplementary. And check and see if that was my theory. It wasn't my theory, someone else's theory. Supplementary angles equal 180 degrees. Now, let's go ahead and put in the values. We have, 3x minus 8 plus x plus 2 is equal to 180 degrees. Now, the nice thing is, we can actually, since we already did this work, isn't this what we already did right there? We already added those two things together. So why do it twice when you already did it once? We already know what that answer is, don't we? It's 4x minus 6. So let's go in here, and this becomes 4x minus 6. I don't have a problem with you using something that you already did. It saves some time, and you already did it. So why do it again when you already did it? Unless you did a really bad job the first time. It's like vacuuming. Why do it again right after you did it? Unless you did a really bad job. Then your wife tells you got to do it again.
Have you vacuumed?
Of course I vacuum.
Do you grade papers and vacuum?
I grade papers, I vacuum, I also cut the grass.
Do you cut the grass while grading papers?
No. Alright, that would be ridiculous. That would be very difficult. Alright, so add a 6 to both sides. So I get 4x is equal to 186, and now I'm hoping that it works out. Divide by 4, divide by 4. 4 goes into 18 4 times. I know, because 4 times 4 is what? 16. So what's 18 minus 16? 2. So I got 26. 26 left over. 4 is going to go into there. 4 is going to go in how many times? 6 times. So it's 46. 24, 2 left over. So that's going to end up being 2/4, which is... That's 2 over 4 is my remainder, so that's 46.5 degrees.
How do you know it's 0.5?
What's 2 divided by 4? What's 2 over 4?
1, right?
No. Let's say you have $4. How much is $2 of $4? How if you got $4 total, and I say how much of the total is $2? 0.5. It's half of it. $2 is half of $4, right? Does that make sense now? All right.
Did I hear you say $4?
$4.
Did you say 4?
Usually that's a what? A starting salary for a Michigan State grad?
Yeah.
Okay.
What McDonald's is paying is this?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's 7.
4.
It's 7.
No,
All right.
4. Just for the record, you said number 4.
All right, so measure of angle of JH is 3x minus 8. Now we're going to plug in the 46.5 minus 8. Now, I'm not going to try and do this. I'm going to use this really lame scientific calculator. So 3 times 46.5 equals that minus 8. That's 131.5 degrees. So the measure of angle KAH is going to be 180 degrees because we know that they both add up to 180 degrees minus 131.5. So that's 48 degrees. 48.5 degrees. And now part C. Part C says measure of angle JAH is equal to the measure of angle KAH. So at this point, all I have to do is say 3x minus 8 is equal to, what's the other guy? X plus 2? Alright, now solve for x. Subtract an x from both sides, get 2x minus 8. I like to keep things positive with my variables. So I make it 2x minus 8 is equal to 2. Add 8. So I get 2x is equal to 10. 2 plus 8 is 10.
And then you divide by 2.
Divide by 2, so x is equal to 5. Now, I'm going to, up here, I know that KAH is equal to x plus 2. That's the easiest one. So the measure of angle KAH is x plus 2, which is 5 plus 2, which is 7 degrees. So what's the measure of angle JAH? 7 degrees. Because they're equal to each other. And then we're done. So yeah, that one took a little bit extra time. The explanation takes a lot longer. But the idea is to, if they're complementary, add them up to equal 90 degrees. If they're supplementary or a linear pair, add them up to be 180 degrees. If they're equal, set them equal.
So wait, whatever that, like the supplementary, whatever that is.
Well, this guy said these two are equal to each other. The two angles are equal. So as soon as I found out what one angle was, the other one has to be. And I don't have to plug in 5 to 3x minus 8. If I did, it'd be 15 minus 8, which is 7 anyway. So it would work out.
Do we have to show our work on the test?
Yes. Well, up until here, and then you can just go. 27.